Here we go. All right, Dr. May, we are live. Are you ready to kick this thing off, brother?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
Ktteev, giving you what you need. Motivation, education unleashed. H-Town representing, we forever keep it rolling. Join the conversation with inspirational stories. Thought-provoking, feel that energy. Kendrick Thomas aiming to lift the community. True indeed, tune in, come and see. Giving you what you need. Ktteev, let's go. Ktteev.
Hey, what it do, Ktteev? This is KT, and I'm coming at you live with another episode of Education Unleashed. And on tonight's episode, I have the man himself, fresh, newly adorned superintendent, Mr. Dr. Anthony T. Mays. How you doing tonight, Dr. Mays?
I am good. Say over here at Alief Middle School with some of our community folks, just having a good conversation about Alief ISD.
Look, man, well, we want to welcome you to the neighborhood. Feel like big boy right now, man. Just said, thank you for coming in. Thank you for taking some time out. I do know, man, the schedule is go, go, go. And so a lot of people are used to the lives, but we do some pre-recorded from time to time just to make sure that we get the guests tuned in to the community, man. So once again, thank you for taking that time out of the busy schedule.
Yes, sir. No, thank you for accommodating me.
Now, we know that wellness is so very important. So with everything that you're going on, I first want to check in with you, man, and say, how are you doing? And how have you been mentally and physically throughout this entire process?
Yeah, mentally and physically, man, I feel good. It's just one of those things where we transitioned at Christmas, which was the first time for not just me and the wife, but the whole family, right? So my mother-in-law lives with us, but it was just one of those things where, we literally had to hit the ground running, and we were in the house 2 days before Christmas. We got gifts wrapped right before dawn of Christmas Eve, so that the kids could kick off the holiday season right here in Alief, to try to get them some sort of normalcy. So I feel good though.
Yeah, man, that is so very important. Being able to just give them that normalcy, and the things that we do on that back end that they just don't know about to make that day normal for them, man.
Trying to hustle,
I'm telling you.
Happen.
So now, as you do that, finding that time to decompress and really find a little solitude in between those busy times is important. So, have you been able to do that a little bit at least?
Man, not just yet, but for me, you know how it is. It's like, man, I get a chance to sit down and watch my kids, and just, even in the short time span that we've been here, just watch my kids, grow and change. So it's like just being present in that moment, even if it's for 45 minutes, just to kind of watch and listen to them. Because I got 3 of them, so it's just cool just to sit there and watch and listen to the dynamic amongst them, and think about how it changed. Because when we were here in Houston before, my kids were small. You know what I'm saying? My son was a baby the first time I moved out here to Houston. So now we come back and he's 6. Or my daughter, they're 2 years apart, so she was a baby too. So they memories are of COVID and lockdown, but everybody's memory of them is like they were elementary school kids. Now I got a 8th grader going to 9th grade, and so that gives me some peace and some solitude, just reflecting on that and watching, man, how God has grown them and changed them.
And continuing to do so, and it's happening fast, man.
Yes, sir.
I'm telling you, I look at now working high school over at ALC, and it's sad to say, but I see some of my high elementary kids, because I was in elementary from 2013 up until last year, and so seeing those guys come in, I'll be like, gosh, man, look at you. You got a mustache, you kind of rub. I say, man, is this you? Now with the traffic, there's so much going on, man. How are you adjusting to everything H-Town with the hustle and bustle and getting to work? Are you close?
Yeah, man, I'm actually, the 36 square miles of Alief, man, I try to stay right here in the area. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's nothing that I need that I really got to go outside of the community for now. My wife, she writes children's books, so she all over Houston. And periodically I may have to go out to help her with something, but for the most part, I'm right here in Alief and avoid some of that stress of like being everywhere else in Houston.
Yeah, that traffic getting you to 45 minutes. I remember my first year of teaching, man. I lived on Will Crescent, Westheimer, and I drove to Mesa Road by the Budweiser plant every day. That's the dedication, Doc. So, man, what that's good to hear. Like I say, it's so important to do that check-in and just get a few minutes, man, to just normalize, just the hustle and bustle, but also that self-care and taking care of ourselves. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So now jumping into the work. Think about Pflugerville. I worked at Rudder High School, coached football, high school track. And so our first year, we were going against teams like Pflugerville, Huddle, Conley. And when I tell you, it was real down there taking a drive to Austin. So know that you Dallas, Fort Worth, Dallas and Fort Worth. And so, finishing that thing up with some of my friends, as we talked about Julia over Harris County, doing all of that work, at what point did you say, I think I'm ready for the superintendents?
I never said that. No, I actually, I was content, behind the scenes in terms of working and supporting superintendents. It wasn't something that I was just like, oh man, I want to do that. I just kind of enjoyed the work of school leadership in terms of supporting principals, supporting campuses. Because like you said, you were talking earlier about you seeing your students, you seeing the kids grow. And that's something that's, refreshing. But, as you move up within the ranks, you start to, it's like less of that and more of the political side of things, right? So it wasn't something that I just up and said. I actually prayed about it because I was planning on doing something else. I was about to make the shift and change to just really go full-time higher ed. But I was like, hey, in my prayers, like, Lord, if that's not what you want me to do, make that plainly clear, and that's when I kind of got the call for Austin ISD's chief of school position. And I said, well, Lord, it can't get no more clear than that, that I'm supposed to continue doing this work in public schools.
Can't get no more clear than that. Action you shall receive.
Yeah.
They say, no more than that. Yeah, they say what you say, Lord, I'm just asking for a sign. And then you get an email says a sign.
Yeah, no, and you, like you said, I said plainly clear. And, it couldn't have been more plainly clear because when I left Austin, Texas, more than right at 20 years ago, right? And so when, of course, as I sat down to leave, I talked with my pastor. My pastor was like, he was telling me, he's like, Anthony, you and Belinda, go ahead and go. He's like, Austin not ready for you yet, but they'll be calling you back. And he told us that, right? So it just tripped me out when everything started to actually kind of come together the way it did. I was like, man, this is crazy. But, that's how God works.
Yeah, that's it, man. And like I say, what's for you, it's going to find you regardless of where you're at.
Yes, sir.
That's it. Congratulations, Doc. Alief ISD. Did my research. Founded in 1911. The board nominated and accepted the first African-American superintendent in 2023.
Yes, sir.
Nice little time in between there. So what drew you to say I'm going to put my hat in for Alief, and how does it feel being the first African American brother to lead the district?
Yeah, man, it feels good. It's one of those things where I feel a lot of support, from the community, and this work is hard. So it's like you can't do the work without the support of the community, right? So I think that in of itself feels good. I think the thought of Alief ISD was something that, a lot of stars had to line up for this to happen, right? Mr. Chambers had to, decide to let go of his, illustrious career right here. There was a lot of moving parts on the other end with me in Austin, Texas. We were working on a bond a record bond for that amount, 2.44 billion. And so a lot of that had to line up. But it became really clear, kind of like you say, being obedient, that this was something that, I needed to look into, especially given the diversity of Alief, especially given them being an anomaly. For me, I desire stability for my family. So my family, my wife has been really supportive of my career, and she's never told me no in terms of moving for a job or opportunity. But I needed to be able to settle down and plant some roots to give them some stability. And so Alief had a unique situation where, they've held on to their last superintendents for over 10 years, right? And so if I was going to look at anything as related to a superintendency, this ideally should be the one, hopefully giving my family that stability that again, we all need.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And when you think about those kids, the ages that you ascribe, it is very imperative in these years right now. I think about some of my coaching friends, and there is about the same. That moving,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, so good that you're able to kind of get planted firm. Look forward to another long, illustrious career,
Yes, sir.
like the one you mentioned for Chambers, man. So glad to have you aboard. Now thinking about how the tide changes. First African American leader in the district. What do you believe this means for leaders that are coming after you?
Yeah, I tell people, man, I think it speaks to possibility, right? I try to, go out like I'm out tonight, be in the community, be in the schools. But, I went to an elementary school. I had a little Hispanic male and black female little girl, tell me that they wanted to be superintendent. And I'm like, man, I was not thinking about being no superintendent at elementary, right? And at that age, but I know it was due to the fact that I was coming over there, spending that time with them, sitting in their classroom, reading to them, having conversations with them, that they could then conceptualize like, oh, okay, that's what I want to do. And to me, that's what it's about, right? So for them on that end, they can conceptualize, okay, I want to be something like that one day. Or even professionals that are standing in the ranks, that are administrators that may be trying to figure out like, man, what can I do, right? It gives you that sense of hope, right? Because even for me with the Austin, Texas, I was like, oh, they're not going to make an African American, but then you see it happen, right? And you see it happen here. And again, it gives, professionals hope. It gives the kids hope. And so I don't take it lightly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And it goes back to that just that cliche saying, you can't be what you can't see.
Yep.
Right. And
what they see is what they'll be.
Yeah, that's it, man. And so once you see it, like I believe that that's me. And so that's why I like spending so much time with those young men in that boys club, just explaining like this was my background when you never meet your dad and so many things that you go through, mom going to jail, but still here we are. Right. And so just keep pushing through. So awesome work, man. And thank you also for being that light for us professionals, man, who coming under, who just saying, I know that there's a possibility that could be something different on my end now.
Yep.
Yes, sir. So now going through that interview process, I'm sure your vision for the district is one of the main focuses. As you go through the school district, I know you've been stopping at schools, but you think about 70,000, and you say, well, everybody ain't getting a chance to just have that contact with you. So just for the people who still want to know a little bit more, as you thought about those, what are some of the priorities that you have for Alief, and how will you measure success on those priorities in your vision?
Yeah. So the first area of focus, of course, is our budget. And like I was just sharing with you, we literally all sitting out here in this community meeting talking about it. We have a $19 million budget shortfall. And so first thing is getting us as a district past that. A measure of success will be we can get back to a flat budget where we don't, we're not running at a deficit, and that we are positioned to give raises throughout, Alief. And so I know Alief ISD has been a leader traditionally in terms of pay and wages. And so for me, that's something that I want to continue, right? I don't want that to be something that changes, but I know that we got to do some hard work to get us there, right? I think the other piece that we've seen is that Alief, being at its height of 47,000 students, we're a little more than 40,000 students now. We've lost a lot of students, and just trying to spend the time trying to figure out what do we need to do to try to grow that number back, right? We want Alief, the schools in Alief, to be the destination for our students within this community. So what does that work look like, right? What do we need to do to make that happen? And so that's a part of the conversation. I think that when we talk about our emergent bilingual population, while enrollment has gone down, our emergent bilingual population has actually gone up, increased. And so do we have the dedicated resources to address the needs of those students, right? In my mind, it's like it would be ideal for us to be the premier district for the work that we do with emerging bilinguals. But I know that that's going to take, again, it's going to take all of us to really figure out, okay, what does that look like? I think a sign of success for that, of course, is, again, us being a premier district in the state of Texas for educating our bilingual students. And so those are things that are significant. I think that when we talk about our CTE, we have dynamic facilities as it relates to CTE. And so I feel like there's no reason that we can't be a leader in students earning industry-based certificates, right? Because those certificates set them up for financial opportunities to be able to take care of their families and earn a living wage as they leave us. But it's like, really trying to make connections with those families and get a student, work with a student from, point A to point B being the end of the road where they graduate with their diploma as well as an industry-based certificate. If an industry-based certificate isn't the path for you, let's at least try to get you graduated with some college hours. So when you go to college, you don't incur that debt that you would incur for a college education. So when you come back to work, you can work and put that money into your household, but also, again, have a quality, education without a whole bunch of debt that you paid to get it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So important. I was fortunate enough to take some of my elementary kids over to the CTE. And when I tell you, all of these young men, I had one guy who, at the beginning of the Boys Club each year, my first question for him is, do you plan to live until 21? And then if so, what are you doing? And so that is a way that I get to dig a little deeper. And so then they set me up with those career paths. So when I was able to go to the CTE, then I was able to take one of my guys who said, man, I want to be a mechanic.
Yeah.
And so I was able to kind of push him into that, or I want to be a nurse, or I want to be a TV person. And so being able to plant those seeds as early as fourth grade was something very powerful. And so that pushes them even closer to, like you're saying, getting those industry-based certificates or making that decision. I think about another program that we're working with is Artists and Scholars, right?
Okay.
And so having people to come inside from the community to talk to these young people to say, look, man, this is what I'm doing. You think back to that pandemic, who's making the money? The plumbers, right? Those people. So just bringing those people in to be able to do that. So awesome that we're talking about that. Now, looking at that, we have, pulling those students that we lost, and we have a lot of charter schools, right, that are coming up. And so almost is I don't know if it's a tug of war. I would just ask that on your end. Is that what we're seeing? And if so, how does Alief stay above the game or ahead of the game in grasping those students from our community?
So I think that it is a tug of war, right? And I think that the sooner public school leaders, principals, teachers, everybody realizes that, hey, we're in competition, right? If the 7,000 students that we've lost isn't enough to indicate, hey, we in a fight, they're in a competition. I don't know what else would be, right? But we gotta pivot and adjust our stance in terms of how we go about just being competitive. I was out, during the Lunar New Year celebrations, having fun, talking amongst community. But guess who was there? Charter schools were there, right? They were there actively connecting with those families, recruiting those students, and recruiting those families. And we did not have a presence there. And so it's really about making sure that we are in those same spaces, sitting right across from whatever charter schools are there. Now, I had the opportunity to be on the microphone, so I was able to tell the families, like, hey, don't go over there. We want you over here at Alief ISD so we can meet your needs.
Yeah.
But we got to make sure that we are in those spaces, being responsive to the competition that we're in. I think the other piece of that is recognizing the customer service or the level of customer service that we got to be able to provide our families so they don't check out our schools and feel like, oh, okay, I'm going to this charter and what I'm going to get is going to be so much better. So really just taking care of the customer and recognizing that we're in competition and be constantly, fighting that battle.
Yes, sir. The customer service is very important regardless of what industry you're in. If you're not taking care of your customers and your clientele,
they'll walk away.
Doing? Yes, sir.
They'll go start shopping somewhere else.
Hey, and that's the point blank period. Mm-hmm. In the last interview with Mr. Chambers, we talked a lot about recruiting, right? Talking about like the relationships with schools like University of Nebraska. And I told him, I said, well, while those relationships are meaningful, how do we reach out to grasp schools that are in our reach, like our TSUs and our PVs, to bring in teachers that more reflect the population that we serve?
Yeah.
Once we bring in those teachers, how do we retain them to come back year after year? And so I just wanted to kind of get your feedback on how we reaching out to those HBCUs and those other schools in our surrounding area to build that bridge, especially with our Black men.
Yeah. So, I had similar questions, right? I don't know that we have those partnerships at this point, but I can tell you as early as last week, I had a conversation with our human resources team and talked to them about like PV, partnering with PV, because TEA has some grant dollars that they'll usually invest in like pipeline programs. And I've worked with them before on universities. And so they, while we were at TASA this past week, they were telling me that, hey, man, we're working with PV, we're just looking for a partner. So just capitalizing on those opportunities because they exist. You can go fishing in Nebraska, or you can go fishing, in Texas. This is a matter of, finding the best strategic partner for the work that you're engaged in. And so Prairie View is a place, like you said, TSU is a place. Houston Tillerson, my alma mater in Austin, Texas, is a place which we partnered with them while I was in Austin. And so it's really, again, just about trying to be focused on that. And building those connections and those relationships with those universities so that we can get that human capital here. The thing that I have noticed, though, is that Alief does an outstanding job of growing their own. Yeah. So, I mean, man, our TAFE programs that our students are participating in, I would say that they probably leave our TAFE programs probably more skilled than some first-year teachers that go into college programs, just because we pour so much into them. And so, how much of a better job can we do of getting more students into TAFE or investing in the TAFE to make students even more interested, because we can grow it as early as high school versus, waiting to college. But so those are two ways that we can continue to grow our own and get those African-American male or brown, Hispanic males or females into the classroom. We've got to be intentional about doing it.
Yeah, I agree. Almost like what's that, longitudinal research? Just follow them as we get ready to get them out doing high school, then going through and then bringing them back into the fold, but knowing that we was there with that support the entire time. So programs like that, most definitely to get us in. I remember talking to Dr. Ktteev, and so I always talk to her a lot over at PV. And just being able to talk about how they are building out teachers and how they're just making sure that they're being more innovative, more tech driven to prepare teachers. And so as we do, like you say, get with those programs, it's always good to just be able to bring them back, man. So understanding.
Yeah. Now we do a good job especially with our taffy teachers. But like you said, I think, man, the people that are from Alief know about Alief and they love Alief, right? And they coming back. And so I was talking to one of the taffy teachers. I was like, how do we keep people from snatching up, our students once they leave here and go to college? She's like, oh no, we don't worry about that. They're coming back. Like, she's like, they come and they do. I've seen it. I've gone to campuses where it's like 8 folks that graduated from Alief, went to school, and I'm like, and that's just the 8 folks that can make the picture. It was more people in the building that also are Alief products that came back. So I think that that's a unique thing and just something to be celebrated. But like you said, how else can we continue to pull more, folks in?
Yeah, and just being able to go through that hiring process, interviewing, hiring people since 2016, just seeing the pride that our students have in coming back in those interviews, and their parents maybe already work in the district, or I'm now like right alongside my 3rd grade teacher, and we on the same team.
Dude, I went to I think it was Bush Elementary with Pena 1 and Pena 2.
Come on, man.
Her daughter went to the school, I believe, graduated and came back and worked at the same school that her mom was teaching at. Yeah. And that's like, I'm like, wow.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful, man. That's it.
Yeah.
And so now, the good thing about this interview, we get to talk about the good, the bad, and the little ugly.
Yes, sir.
And so we know, as we look over the past few years, and look at the district, it's a stretching feeling, right? Because I feel like we're trying to cover that time. Life is still going, testing is still going, but we still have these real life gaps that we're meeting, right?
Yes,
and
sir.
so with that, teachers are feeling stretched, students are feeling stretched. So thinking of that support of something simple as mental health, but not simple, very important. How will the district meet those teachers and students where they are, and then support them in that regard?
Yeah, so like I said, we're going through this budget challenge, but the one thing that we are focused on trying not to, cut short in terms of our investment is mental health, right? So it's like, well, where else do we need to go to find the dollars versus, taking our mental health counselors, because I believe we have we have about 5 or 6 extra ones that provide that additional support to campuses, trying to make sure that stays in place, right? So we are, again, soliciting the state to give us more dollars. But if we don't get those dollars, trying to figure out, okay, what other partnerships can we develop to keep those pieces in place? Because we recognize how challenging this time is, right? So, we're on the heels of COVID, but you still got the lingering anxiety from COVID. I think the other piece of it that adds to the stress is not necessarily COVID, but just work stress, as we've seen, more professionals leave our field, add more to you all's plate as you sit in the building. And I think that's just something we're going to have to weather the storm through, because I do feel like those professionals are going to come back. When you look up and industries are laying off 10,000 people, you'll make your way back, and so we have to, it's a cycle, right? Like without everything we see is like it cycles back and forth. And so we just moving through that cycle and hoping that it's a much longer time as we get to a place where we are, steady and stable before we see this time ever again. Because it is tough and it is challenging, and people are having to do more with less, and having to do, you having to do 2 or 3 people's job versus, because you can't find a paraprofessional to come in and take the 2 vacancies that you got, right? So, and then you think about, the quickly, or the rise in wages, and it's like, wow, Chick-fil-A and these other companies can jump up there and oh, we're gonna give you $18 an hour. The school district is just not in a position to be able to do that, right? Yeah. So it's just, we'll catch up, but it's going to take us more time than it would some of the other industries. But I also think we're going to benefit from people coming and seeing their way back to public education as we see some of these other larger companies start to lay off people.
Yeah, I think about I'm an avid CNBC watcher in the morning. That's how I'm getting ready for work.
Uh-huh.
And so, looking at companies where I'm investing like your Amazons or
Mhm.
your Googles, I think about just this morning, Dell said they're laying over 6,000 people.
Mhm.
And so we have a Dell factory like right here. And so then, think about, will some of those workers be affected? Were some of those workers people who left because things looked more appealing at that time?
Mhm.
So I agree with you.
Man, I tell people, and I've told people as we've gone through, I was like, hey, the grass is not always green on the other side.
Yeah. And if it is, the water bill is higher.
That's
Hey,
the first time I heard that one.
hey, I'm telling you. But yeah, man, I think about when the pandemic first started, and just people say, well, what do you do? I say, I build bridges. But when you think about doing more with less,
Yeah.
I went and I interviewed people all over the world, really, man. We was all in Egypt and
Oh, wow.
Alaska. And so but down in Brownsville, they didn't have books, they didn't have resources, and I was able to the Houston Public Library watched the podcast, reached out to them and sent them books and all kind of
Cool.
resources down there. So you think about, like you say, doing more with less.
Yeah.
But it's those pieces of being able to put that puzzle together.
Mhm.
Like you say, that para may be missing, but then how do we still pull our resource together
Yeah.
and make it happen? Because it's a cycle. Right, and I do believe that. So hopefully, like you said, it's another 100 years, not in our lifetime,
Yeah, man.
where we go through something.
Once we get out of this, I don't think nobody want to go back.
No, no, no.
I don't think nobody want to go back, man. But what they're saying, nothing new under the sun. And the older we get, the more we realize, like, man, okay, I done seen this chapter a couple of times,
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so you're just waiting on the pendulum to make its way back, to people gravitating to the field of education.
yeah.
And hopefully, again, they continue to bring that love for our kids back with them, because our kids need them and we need them.
Need them. Most definitely, they need them. Man, just being able to. I thank God for putting me at ALC. So, because you always be on the other side where you sending kids there, and man, and it was this so whimsical place. Like, but at the end of the day, right, regardless of where these kids are, they need that love.
Mm-hmm.
And they need that guidance. So being able to be thankful for just being able to see everything now, really in a 360 view. And so thinking about that, a few years ago, the district did the equity audit, right?
Uh-huh.
Shout out to Dr. Bro.
Yeah.
Right, so examining the practices on equity and inclusion. Have you had a chance to look at that progress since you came in? And what is your vision and direction to continue the work that they've been doing since the findings of that audit?
So we are continuing to build on the equity work.
Yeah.
This is work that our board started, and our board is owning the work in a way that a lot of districts don't. And so they are heavily engaged. Like you said, Dr. Bro is a part of that work. At this point, I've met with Miss Marshall, Dr. Marshall. I don't know if you know Dr. Marshall,
Yes,
but she's been the one that's picked up the work. And so she was one of the first individuals that I sat down with coming into this organization, because the equity work has been handed off to her from, I forget who left and who was doing the work at first, but I think they retired. So Miss Dr. Marshall has picked up that work. She has the committees that the last meeting was in December. And so those committees have broken out in terms of student discipline, instruction, student discipline, all of those various areas that we're going to be focused on, and they're doing the research and trying to figure out, okay, what are some of the easy changes that we need to make to support improvement and equity in our system. And so, like I say, Dr. Bro, the board being the spearhead, me joining those committees, because I'll be at the next equity meeting with the team, just really trying to, for me, get familiar with the work and where we are as a district. What I can tell you is that as we've come on board, really trying to do our best to take the equitable practices into this budget challenge that we have. And so really looking at, you know, eco-dis of a campus, the tiering of a campus academically, looking at some of the challenges that they have at their campus as we think about, you know, who's going to have this resource and who is not. So we're taking that equity lens into that work to help us, you know, and actually it's funny because in this community meeting, we had the exact same question. They were drawing the parallel between two of the campuses. And so we had a good conversation about equity and where we are and what we're looking at in terms of metrics to be able to use or determine who gets what resource.
Yeah. And like I say, no matter what about that love for kids, the willingness to do work, it's always something that reminds you we still are in the business of educating kids. And so that money has to be appropriated, resources have to be appropriated.
Yeah.
And man, so I commend you, man, for taking on the role. Shout out to Dr. Marshall. I'm in Inspiring Principles, and so
okay.
she's
So
our
you get
leader.
to work with her. Yeah, you get to work with her.
Oh yeah, man! I see her this Wednesday. I'm excited. So you know, just doing the work, man.
Yeah.
Thinking about that work, the boys club. I've been a stable. It's been a stable in the district. And so I began in 2013. 2014, I began leading the club on my campus. Became an AP 2016, and when I tell you, it took dedication because you know you think about that leadership and still being able to find that way to meet with these guys, find their coverage when needed be. I continue because I know how important it is for them to know who they are and the greatness that they come from. I talk to Kafele a lot, and so we just talked a few days ago. Just talked about our interview with you, you know, and the way that that we'll be going. He said, brother, you know, I travel, but I'm going to be tuned in. So he waiting on Thursday himself, man. It's so awesome that I get to just connect with him. But are there any programs or ideas that you have that you may bring in that support minority males and meet them where they at, as we know how important it is to close those achievement gaps and even work more with those guys for college and career readiness?
Yeah. So I one of the things that we're trying to do is really look at these grassroots programs that are built and designed for our kids, right? So I don't know if you're familiar with Reading with a Rapper, but that is like one of the programs what we want to look at in terms of just attacking literacy, because you know when you think about not being able to read, sitting in a classroom frustrated, becoming somebody's problem because you really can't read and you don't want to tell nobody you can't read. So you become a discipline problem. And then we start on another path. But again, the root cause is, man, I can't read nothing you putting in front of me. And I don't understand nothing you asking me because I can't read the text. So really just trying to pour into literacy and thinking about how can we, you know, give our students a chance at being successful by giving them the prerequisite skills of moving around in this society, and reading being one of them. You know, I think that when we talk about CTE or we talk about the credentials that you can leave Alief with that create greater economic opportunities, you know, that's the icing on the cake, right? Now, some students, I mean, they just gifted and talented in ways that people don't want to acknowledge. So they'll walk into that mechanic shop like you talked about earlier, and they don't necessarily got to read a book. They're like, okay, I take to fixing cars the same way I would, you know, you as somebody that's literate take to reading a book. And I read that in that way, right? Or even if it's math being the language that they speak, not ABC, you know. So they'll pick up those skill sets and they'll thrive and be successful in ways that me and you can only imagine being successful at. But for me, it's let's couple the two together, right? Let's make sure that, you know, we tap into what you need to be able to read, but also align that with the curriculum and the credentials that we can give you as a graduate of Alief with some of these industry-based certificates. So you can, you know, if you're a student, take whatever it is that you got in your mind and you've imagined yourself being able to do, you can do that and then some, right? You can take those raw talents, continue to read and grow and get stronger and stronger. And again, really just contribute to this country in ways that people couldn't have even anticipated. But those are the things that we want to be able to do is this CTE, IBCs, that's a a given. We got to get strong with that. We just got to talking about that in the community meeting. The reading and the literacy piece, we got to be able to get strong with that. I think that those grassroots creative programs like I said, the Reading with the Rapper, those only create opportunities, but you also got areas like just the arts, right? We got kids that are artistic in ways that, man, it goes ignored, And so, like, what can we do to give our students those opportunities, right? African American men, they're just as artistic as any other race or ethnicity, but they don't get those opportunities to practice the arts, right? Or engage in the arts. And so what can we do? And for that, I don't have an answer for you today, but just knowing that those are areas that we want to be able to give attention. The CTE is something that's real easy. It's about us tweaking our systems, making sure that counselors know what classes students need to be able to take, making sure that our administrators are monitoring the data as it relates to students and tracking them into the courses that they need to be able to take and supporting them with being successful in those classes. Because on the other side of it is economic opportunity that if they don't finish those pathways, that they just miss out on. And sometimes it's one class, right? I didn't take one class and missed out on this great opportunity. Yes, so we got to be able to do that work with due diligence. But that's where I'm at. The art thing is just a dream, but really want to see our students get exposed to art in ways that they are not.
Yeah, that's when I think about when I had Miss Key on, and so we talked about those art programs and how her family was proud of that and how she wanted to make sure that she keep those pieces going. But also, I think about that literacy and the third grade reading for African American males, and so I had Brian Middleton on a few years back, first African American district attorney in Fort Bend. And so we were able to talk about that school to prison pipeline and how important it is on catching those young men in those classrooms and reading at such an early age. Because like you say, it's something as that early. If we miss the boat on them, then they gone. By fifth grade, it's too intensive for me to try to catch up. So what can we do?
Yeah. The literacy piece it opens up so many doors, right?
Yeah.
And that's why for me, and we hadn't got it started here, but I've done this program other places, going into that classroom and allowing them to see us read. I mean, I know somebody might think it's something small, but it's like, man, when you haven't seen an African American or Hispanic male read, sit and read, because we take it for granted, right? Like when my son walks up to me and says he want to read a book, man, I'm a, put down whatever I'm doing to sit down and read the book. Otherwise, I'm gonna be convicted and feel all sort of guilty, right? And it's like, we worked hard to get him to the place where he was interested in reading books, right? So, I want to always make sure that I feed and nurture that. And sometimes us going in and sitting in, while it may be a small thing, it goes such a long way in terms of us just sitting in front of it. And I focused on third grade, right? And that's kind of where we visit those third grade classes, sit there and read with those students to give them a different identity or sense of, no, I can sit down and read a book and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Man, powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to be inside of a group, and it's about 12 of us. But it's like Dame Dash is in this group, Freeway is in this group, and so many other just verified members on Instagram. And so I'm able to like Principal Jacko, I'm able to talk to. And so just being able to send out information, like I'm going to put our interview inside of the group to let them know kind of what we do. But when you think about the conversations that we have, it's all over the country, right? Because all of them are on the East Coast, but it's still that same struggle, getting our males prepared for college and career, getting our males prepared for life with just those skills. Even in the boys club, I talk to them about real life, but I make sure that I'm pulling out those skills, that eye contact, that active listening, all of those pieces to just prepare you for life. So big shouts out for taking that on. Anything that I can do to help, man, I'm here. I think about on campus, the group Shy, senior group. And so one of my teachers is Dr. Garfield, who's the lead singer. And so, yeah, man, it's crazy. We I knew him way before, but just him being on the campus, man, just like he leave on the weekends, he go tour, he come back Monday bright and early teaching English, right?
Might have to come over there and get an autograph, man. We grew up singing Shy.
Hey, look, that's what I'm saying, man. And so just being there,
Jodeci.
Yeah. You know, right now he's telling me like he goes on tour, so he got all the 90s, SWV, H Towns. He's like, yo, yeah, man, we can talk to them. I said, hey, I like that. but being able to have that influence on campus, he even got the platinum album inside of the classroom to just kind of show kids and motivate them. And so, man, being able to do things like that is what it takes, though, when you think about reading with a rapper.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
No, I mean, and they are, I think at this point we had a one campus, and I was with those guys today, and we were just talking about, okay, how can we do more? And it's just reimagining what traditional instruction, classroom instruction looks like for our students, because it's not even just the African American boys, right?
Yes, sir.
It's impacting, the culture sometimes adversely impacts more than just our race. Now, unfortunately, we're the ones most directly impacted in ways that, poverty and economic conditions just drives it, right? Like you said, it doesn't make us any less smart or anything like that. It's opportunities, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why getting those certificates and putting students in a position to earn that, that break that cycle by creating economic opportunity is just so important. Because they get to, go out here and make, have babies and start families where they are going to be reading to them, going to be exposing them to something different. And you start to see a different cycle. But no, it's opportunities there. I'm excited about, some of the unique stuff that's developing here in Houston. And I look forward to taking advantage of it and getting it into our classrooms and into our schools so our kids can take advantage of it. But I think that's where the answer is looking to folks to organically create it and see where it goes.
Yeah, powerful right there. Powerful, man. So, Doc, as we get ready to close this thing out, man, I want to take some time and say thank you. It's been 47 minutes. We've been pushing. And so I know you got a family to get to yourself.
Yes, sir.
So as we wrap up, what's next for you in the next few days? Are you doing any more meet and greets?
Yes, sir. I'll be at Albright. So we did the 4 meet and greets in the morning. And so we wanted to make sure that we did, these in the evening to give folks the opportunity that, you get off work, you can't make it to after 6, the opportunity just to come and sit and be able to just get to know one another, right? So we got another evening one next week at Albright Middle School next Wednesday, I believe. Meet and greet over there. I think that will be the last one, but we also have budget meetings. We got 4 of those coming up. And so the team will be floating throughout the city, having those conversations, collecting feedback, just to kind of let people know where we are with our financial situation and the steps we're taking to get us to a stronger place.
Yes, sir. Like we said, man, at this point, it's politician life, man, shaking hands and kissing babies. Just going through, man. But the work is so important. Being able to, like I say, just normalize that role and let people know I'm here for you, right? And so we build together. So, man, just thank you again for the light that you're giving, the light that you will be, the direction that we're going. Just so glad, man. I have a lot of friends that are alphas. And so one of my friends, they coach at Marshall. And look, man, the whole time he's like, man, when it's coming on, when he gonna be there, I want to see it. So big shouts out to you, man.
No, man, I appreciate my bros, for always, supporting me. I also appreciate 100 Black Men. Again, they're always there to volunteer. Again, they were a part of my literacy push out in Austin. And so I look forward to working with them and the brothers of A5A as we start to develop, just some programs that we know are needed to connect with our young men.
Yeah, January 12th, I was able to host the State of African American Health, where I worked with 100 Black men and also the African American Health Coalition. And so, man, just talked a lot about the African American health in our community. But that led me to now, I think in a few weeks, I got an informational that I'll be going to just be a part of that whole entire community of 100 Black Men, because I think nobody can do it alone. If so, you ain't doing enough.
You can't. You got to collaborate, man. You got to have, like we were just talking about the strategic partners, man. It take, you know, the higher ed piece. It take the nonprofit. It take, you know, our Greek organization. It takes, you know, HABC, TABC. It take all of these collective groups, you know, getting to the table, you know, no ego, but just focus on, like, hey, man, how do we impact, you know, our students in our communities? And that's one of the things that's cool about Houston is people are down with that. They want to do that. So, and that makes, again, the load a little lighter.
Yeah. Man, we got Man Up coming. This will be our second one.
That Man Up. Yeah, Man Up. I'll be over there. So that's another program. I know Dr. Ktteev is driving that. But, you know, that's another opportunity, another program that we need to look at. Okay. And I talked to her about it. I was like, okay, you know, we got to look at what are the metrics, you know what I'm saying? You know, so we can quantify our success and then be able to replicate the program, right?
Yeah. So
you can pour some resources into it.
Yeah, that's it, man. You know, I think last one, our first one over at Buddha Wing, and we talking like 100 families, man, just coming out, being able to kind of maneuver around the building. Brother Derek Muhammad came, dropped a nice word on us. So like you say, being able to bring those out, but finding the metrics and that formula so that we can replicate that with the bigger resources. That is something we talked about in our last meeting. So shout out to Dr. Ktteev. Like you say, when she driving, she is driving, brother.
Oh, yeah.
That's it, man.
I don't think she know no other way to drive but fast.
That's it. I don't think so. So, Doc, as we close out, any last words for the community, for the constituents, for our teachers of Alief ISD?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, you know, like I said, we're in a tough spot with our budget. I think, you know, it's really about, you know, getting to the other side of things. What they say, trouble don't last always. So, you know, it can be uncomfortable and challenging now. But, you know, again, let's continue to stay focused and get to the other side and continue to be a leader right here in Region 4. And it's going to take all of us. And so I'm going to be leaning and depending on everybody to help, you know, row the boat to get us to the other side. So I appreciate everybody, and I thank everybody in advance. So and you, I appreciate you. I appreciate you and getting them books into Brownsville. I'm like, just something like this podcast, getting resources there. So that's what this is about. So, man, we appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Doc. I sure appreciate you. And, you know, it's easy to do something for 6 weeks, but when you think about doing this since 2019 and just sticking with it and seeing it grow, you already know it's bigger than you, right?
Right.
Yes, sir. So I got to keep the work going, man. So thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, that will do it for us, Doc. Awesome conversation tonight. I look forward to sharing this with the community, sharing this with our teachers. I put the flyer out. I want to say I got over 100 some clicks just since Sunday. So I think it's gonna be rolling, man. We'll be here Thursday, man. So just thank you for your time tonight, Doc.
Thank you, man, and you have a good night, and we'll be in touch.
All right, y'all. This is KT for KTTV signing out. 100.
This is Darnell with Broadcast Houston.
This is Dr. Tamara Beckford.
Hey, this is Candace.
This is London Underwood.
This is Kirsten Bass with Inner City Greens, and you're watching.
Y'all are now tuned in to
Ktteev.
Ktteev.
KTTV.
KT